What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Jolly by Nature, and we are back bringing you our Chapter 7 Team Builder as part of the Blastburn Radio Nuzlocke World Tour. Holy cow, you guys, the end is almost upon us. We've only got a couple weeks left. As you know, if you are paying attention and you are a numbers head, shout out to my math boys out there. We are currently tied in second place in this series. It doesn't look like this one is going to be anybody's ball game. It looks like Celeste has this thing pretty well wrapped up, unless she stumbles right at the finish line, which is certainly possible, and we don't want to discount that possibility, but the race for second place is literally as neck and neck as it possibly could be. There's a lot of factors that went into that, honestly, not the least of which being the fact that I've been pretty significantly handicapped in team building for several weeks now, and that's certainly not doing me any favors. However, we are in fact free at last. The flip side of that, that unfortunate loss of points that's allowed Anna to catch up means that we are also free of the burden of one of our shiny Pokemon. Shout out to Gelato. Gelato went down like an absolute champ, a true friend of the team, a hero of the squad, if you will. But, you know, for every cloud there is a silver lining, and the silver lining of this particular cloud is that when I sit down to team build today, I can do so totally free, no strings attached. So let's talk about that team a little bit. Our roster for PvP this week consists of Ravioli, give us the Deathioli, the Calm, Garchomp, Sandvale, Poison Jab, Fire Blast, Bulldoze, and Dragon Claw. We have Cheese, our Rotom. We decided to be a little cheeky and go for the Rotom Frost this week, which is a fairly unconventional choice, to be honest, although I feel like it offers us some fairly unique benefits in this matchup. Currently Thunderbolt, Will-O-Wisp, Substitute, and Blizzard. We have Optimus, who is now our big boy Bisharp. You fucking love to see it, with Metal Claw, Sucker Punch, Stealth Rock, and Night Slash. We have Pumpkin Spice, our Gourgeist, Frisk, Leftovers, Leech Seed, Stealth Bomb, Shadow Sneak, and Will-O-Wisp. We have Sashimi, our Gyarados, Lax Natured, Aquatail, Dragon Dance, Ice Fang, and Return. SpongeBob, our Togekiss, Super Lunk, Scope Lens. This is the mon that we pulled out of our egg box this week, and boy, what a mon he is. I spent so much time getting SpongeBob to love me so we could evolve him all the way. Came with some really dope egg moves. The only one we actually kept in the end was Nasty Plot. So I'm sorry if that is disappointing, whoever sent SpongeBob in. Our options for like what sets to run on SpongeBob as a Super Luck Togekiss are much more limited than if SpongeBob had been a Serene Grace variant, which would have made it much easier to run like a bulky Air Slash Flinch fucking like wish passing set with like Wish, Thunder Wave, Protect It, and Air Slash, for instance. But in this case, with a Nasty Plot Super Luck Togekiss, there was really only one option. SpongeBob came holding a Life Orb, which is really dope, but with that Super Luck, we really just wanted to take advantage of that high crit chance, so we went out and got ourselves a Scope Lens. Fun fact, if you want to get a Scope Lens in Pokemon X and Y, you absolutely can from any point in the game past when you reach Lumiose City. You have to go to the Shutterbug Cafe in Lumiose after you have taken 15 photos at a photo spot with Phil the Photo Guy. Does not matter how many photo spots you visited, just that you have taken 15 distinct photos. So we went out, we took some photos, we gave some tips to Phil because we always tip our service professionals, and we got ourselves a Scope Lens. This is a mon that I think is really potentially damaging to my opponents. I'm really excited to use SpongeBob again. Welcome back to the team, SpongeBob. We're glad to see you. Ultimately, our ability to pivot in SpongeBob's moveset is fairly limited because of the way that move relearning and stone evolution Pokemon work in Pokemon X and Y. We can't, for instance, relearn Follow Me for doubles PvP next week, which thankfully we do in fact still have a Follow Me Clefable, which definitely helps on that front if we decide to bust Bold out of retirement for that particular matchup. But yeah, SpongeBob not going to be that type of Togekiss for us, but will hopefully be very, very good at what SpongeBob does, which is hit very, very hard and crit a lot, which is something that frankly we're gonna need. We do have Omelette, our Jolly Moxie Mega Heracross with Rock Blast, Pin Missile, Substitute, and Close Combat. And we have Jelly Bean, our Starmie. Currently with Thunderbolt, Recover, Surf, and Thunderwave. And you might be looking at that and you might think, but Jolly, there's no Rapid Spin on that moveset. You specifically were excited to get a Starmie to have Rapid Spin for PvP, and you are correct. And there's a reason for that, and we will get there, of course. Before we get there, I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that we took a big old fucking goose egg in PvP last week, and there were a lot of factors there. In some ways, we were just simply outplayed in both of our matches. I made a couple of bad judgment calls, or at least judgment calls that turned out to be wrong. Ones that jump out immediately into my mind is doubling back into Waffles on Celeste's Garchomp, expecting a pivot out, which, again, to be clear, pivoting out of that Garchomp in that situation when you are staring down a Rotom that you cannot damage sufficiently that you have a high reason to suspect has Will-O-Wisp was the correct play. I read Celeste making the correct play, but that's the problem with making reads, is sometimes your opponent doesn't see the same thing that you see and they don't make that play. I overread, I misread, because I anticipated Celeste making a play that she did not, and that was my bad. Another one that immediately comes to mind is in the late game where I was wasteful in my resources in dealing with Anna's Mega Medicham. I allowed it to intimidate me. It's been long enough since we fought that fight that I can't remember exactly what my better play was, but I remember recognizing almost immediately that I had a better play that would have preserved a lot more resources for that end game, and I think that if I had done so, I probably would have won that match. RNG was a factor in my loss against Celeste. I'm not going to diminish that, and I'm not going to diminish the fact that it really frustrated me, because it's not the first time this season that I've come within a hair's breadth of beating Celeste, and I've lost seemingly to the whims of the Nuzlocke gods, but sometimes it be that way, and there are definitely places where I could have played that match better to make those crits, those misses, less significant, and I failed to do so, and that's on me. It's frustrating because I pulled out some surprise tech last week against Celeste that is not going to be surprising in the future. I can't have that element of surprise back no matter what I do, and that's just something that I kind of have to deal with. But we're going to do our best, definitely, to pick up 2 wins this week. We really need them. We definitely, bare minimum, the important matchup this week is Annabeth, 100% of the time. Again, at this point, I have pretty much given up on catching up to Celeste under my own power. I think it's mathematically impossible. She has to mess up pretty significantly for us to catch her on the leaderboard. So we're going to be waiting for her to do that. And in the meantime, we're going to be focusing our attention on Annabeth, who we can very much stay out in front of, and we need to. We're at the end game of the series. We just need to execute in PvP, particularly against Annabeth, and kind of keep our momentum going into the last stretch. Now, you might notice there are some favorite friends who did not make the cut onto the squad. We are not, again, we're still not bringing Taquito. Love you, Taquito. You're a fantastic boy. Right now, we're just getting more value from Pumpkin Spice. We're not bringing Bold. Bold, unfortunately, with the moveset that Bold is locked into, is just not a great bulky defensive cleric option for me in singles gameplay. It's just not. It is outclassed in every way offensively by SpongeBob. It is outclassed defensively for singles by Saffron, who has access to Wish and Aromatherapy, which could be incredibly vital in singles. You might notice I'm also not bringing Saffron. There's a number of reasons for that, not the least of which being that I just have a lot of really good Mon, and Celeste is already using a Florges. Like, if we really needed that fairy typing, like I expected this week that we were going to be evolving Saffron into a Florges and bringing her this week, and then we hatched SpongeBob. And I was like, well, I have a good fairy. I don't super need it. I have other walls. Like, I can make this work. It's not ideal, but I can make this work. It's going to be fine. We're not bringing Peanut, which I don't feel great about, if I'm being 100, but we're at the end game of the series, and Peanut's stats are just kind of starting to betray her a little bit. That's not to say that she's absolutely done. Again, she's still got access to Fake Out, which is really good in a double setting, so there's a very real chance that Peanut comes next week, and there's a very real chance that she comes moving forward. She's not a bad Pokemon, but I just felt like there were better options for this week. Same thing for Turducken. I feel like screens from Turducken have a little bit more more value in doubles than in singles in general. But yeah, this is a mon that could very easily come next week. This week, I didn't feel like the matchup was there. And also Waffles, who unfortunately is probably seeing his retirement into the egg box at this point. It is just incredibly difficult to justify bringing both Ravioli and Waffles, and I have to bring Ravioli. And I also now have Optimus for stealth rocks. So in general, there's just really nothing unique Waffles brings except for Earthquake at the moment, but that's not even going to be true for long. So that's kind of where the team is at. I feel really positively about this team of 8. I think this is one of the better teams we've ever fielded. The same is true for our opponents too, however, obviously, so we can't get too complacent in that note. And on that note, let's talk about our opponents' teams, starting with the matchup that I think is way more important this week in Annabeth. Now, Annabeth is bringing almost the same team that she brought to PvP last week. She's bringing her Chansey Nuit, her Garchomp Fierce, her Roserade Rose, her Octillery Sargasso, her Grand Bull Fame, her Mega Medicham Echo, her Delphox Samsara, and new to the squad, her Mega Heracross Boss. So that's the thing. That's the big change up that we have to be prepared for. I think that we match up pretty well into a Mega Heracross, particularly because we know that our Omelette is jolly. I don't think we invested max speed into him. I would have to double check. It's been a little bit. I'm pretty sure we speed crept something, likely the Breloom, and put a lot into bulk as well. But I think that overall that's probably a good call. I can't imagine Anna go. Well, I guess Anna might not put as much time into a spread as me, so she might go max speed. But she could also very easily be adamant. Like there's a number of factors here. We won't know which one of these bugs is faster, I don't think, until they're staring each other face to face. So last week Anna brought her Chansey, her Garchomp, her Roserade, her Granbull, I believe, definitely her Medicham, and I'm pretty sure her Delphox, right? Could have been Octillery. I forget exactly. She definitely did not bring the Charizard. Charizard didn't come to either match. I don't think she brought the Octillery either. I think it was the other 6. The Delphox, Medicham, Granbull, Roserade, Garchomp, and Chansey. I'd have to go back and watch the tape to be certain. I think there's pretty good odds that is the team that Anna fields against me this week as well. She knows I have a lot of electric. It is really, really difficult to justify bringing Octillery against me with all the things that outspeed it and threaten it. I don't super expect to see a Heracross, not when she knows I just got a Togekiss who is going to quad resist both its fighting and bug stab. I mean, obviously it's going to have Rock Blast just as our Mega Heracross has Rock Blast, but I think there's a lot of compelling reasons not to bring that particular mon against me, although I could definitely be wrong. But I would expect the same team of 6: Chansey, Garchomp, Roserade, Granbull, Medicham, and Delphox, which means I need to figure out how I'm going to beat that core while also keeping an eye on Boss the Heracross. The bad news for me is I showed off last week exactly how devastating a substitute set is on Mega Heracross, which means that if Annabeth does bring Boss, and if she does bring him to Mega him specifically, she's very likely to run a subset of her own, and that's something we also just in general need to be prepared for. First and perhaps foremost, I think we bring Cheese into this matchup. Cheese is a problem for Garchomp, which is a big part of the reason that Cheese is a Rotom Frost this week. Cheese is also a big problem for Roserade, and Rose has been a problem for me on the series. So I think that is a really, really good thing overall. We do have to be aware of the fact that Nuit the Chansey does just kind of switch into this thing for free. And so we're going to need to do anything we can to discourage that free swap, although Blizzard I think does a pretty good job of doing that naturally. After all, it has a reasonably high freeze chance even if Chansey eats that hit, so that's something to be aware of, although we do want to be aware that we likely can't just freely like sub and start hitting on an anticipated Chansey switch in, because it's just not going to take much damage. We're going to want to deal with Chansey first if we can, and Anna's done a really good job of preserving it. I do still think that Cheese is a good bring though, if nothing else because it keeps certain things honest. Maybe I'll change my mind as we go down the list, but I don't think I will. I think we definitely have to bring SpongeBob this week. I think that it is just way too good as a switch into Heracross especially, but also into Medicham. Helps keep that high jump kick honest, although obviously Mega Medicham and Garchomp both get access to Poison Jab, which can be a problem there, but I still think it's a really good switch here. Flying Stab, obviously very, very good into Roserade, very, very good into Medicham, very, very good into Heracross. Dazzling Gleam is very good into Garchomp, and then Aura Sphere is very good into Chansey. This is a special attacker that with Nasty Plot and crits could very easily break Chansey, which is not something that a lot of those can say. You love to see it, as it were. I definitely also think that we bring Omelette. Omelette almost won my matchup against Anna single-handedly last week, and so that's definitely going to be a question that Annabeth is going to have to answer, is how the hell do I deal with the Heracross? I definitely expect Delphox is the answer there, but we're just going to have to be sure that we deal with Delphox elsewhere. That's not even really a problem. You know, I think maybe we don't bring Cheese, actually. The more I'm looking at this, because I'm running out of space, and I feel like Cheese might be the weakest link here. I'm really reasonably okay with that. So then what do I bring? What do we bring in this matchup? We definitely bring Optimus. I think Optimus is really good here for a whole variety of reasons. Stealth Rocks is incredible to put everything on a timer, and Sucker Punch is huge to revenge kill things that are faster. Specifically, we know that Annabeth has a Choice Scarf. Last week she brought Scarf Chomp, and I fully expect she's going to continue to bring Scarf Chomp until we show her that we can beat it. The only other thing that I think is a reasonable competitor for that Scarf is Boss the Heracross. Even though it came with a Heracrossite, it could also very easily run a Choice Scarf Moxie set and be a cleaner, and that's something that we definitely need to be prepared for. But the nice thing is we've got a pretty robust set of strengths and weaknesses just on this team so far, which is going to make it very difficult for that Heracross to lock into one move. Obviously, like, it's Optimus is quad weak to close combat, but then SpongeBob quad resists it. And on that note, I think we definitely also bring Pumpkin Spice here, right? Do we bring Pumpkin Spice here? I think so. I think we definitely want the Will-O-Wisp, and if we're not bringing Rotom, we definitely, I think, want the Gourgeist to burn things. And also, again, for priority, which is still very good here. Again, Ghost is good against Medicham and Delphox both. Yeah, I think this is a good bring overall. And then, God, this is where it gets hard. So here's the thing. We can bring Jelly Bean, and with Jelly Bean, we can spread Thunder Waves, and we can slow things down and help set ourselves up for a SpongeBob sweep in the end game, which is cool and good and something that we super duper want. But do we get that opportunity, or does Rose of the Roserade just come out and get to click buttons? Because I kind of feel like Rose just gets to come out and click buttons. I mean, I can paralyze it, and once it's paralyzed, like, that's a good thing. Because it's Jelly Bean or Sashimi here. So I guess my question is, who is a better win con in this matchup, right? First of all, worth noting, Annabeth has a Scarf. Sashimi needs 2 Dragon Dances to outspeed either likely Scarfer. Really, any of the 3 likely Scarfers, if you include Roserade in that. I think Roserade is a less likely Scarfer, but it's still very possible. And that's a problem to some degree, I guess. Although, like, what do either of them really click to hit Sashimi? Annabeth also has a lot of physical attackers overall in Garchomp and Medicham and Heracross. I guess it's a pretty balanced team, but those 3 are just incredibly huge threats. And also Granbull, but Granbull is less offensively potent. And if we keep this move set, we're not hard-walled by Octillery because we have Return. versus Jelly Bean can T-Wave. Can also recover with Recover, which is not a bad thing to have, certainly. But at that point, primary utility here is Thunder Wave, which is not bad. But is it, especially because until Rose switches in, gets paralyzed. At that point, Rose switches in every time, and there's nothing Jelly Bean can do about it. Yeah, I think we bring Sashimi here, which doesn't feel incredible because I feel like this team is actually kind of predictable from me. Looking at what I have and what Anna has, like I expect that these are the 6 that she preps for if I'm being 100, but sometimes you just got to try it, and I think that's what we need to do here. All right, so let's talk. Do we need to make any learn set changes? Leech Seed, Seed Bomb, Shadow Sneak, Will-O-Wisp I think is good. Aqua Tail, Dragon Dance, Ice Fang return I think is perfect. We need that return so we are not hard-walled by Octillery. Metal Claw, Sucker Punch, Stealth Rock, and Night Slash, great. Okay, yeah, these move sets I think are good. We dropped Swords Dance on Ravioli. I just don't think we're ever going to get a setup chance on Ravioli, to be honest. And maybe that's short-sighted of me, but I felt like Bulldoze to apply a -1 speed to something on the switch in was actually like potentially way more helpful. So that's what we're going to go with. We're going to keep the scope lens on SpongeBob. For Ravioli here, I think we can go a couple of different routes. We can give Ravioli a Life Orb to increase its damage, or we could give it a Lumberry to prevent it from being statused. What does Annabeth? I mean, I guess there is Stun Spore from Rose. Huh. Or we can go Choice Band. The problem with Choice Band, obviously, being that, well, God, would I ever reasonably click Fire Blast against Annabeth? Not really. I mean, maybe against Rose, but I still think with the way Roserade stats line out, I think that Stab Dragon Claw would still probably hit a lot harder, or even P-Jab as coverage to account for the Grand Bull switch in. I think we're going to Choice Band Ravioli this week. I think that's really solid. I think it does a lot of damage. I don't think that we ever click Fire Blast against Annabeth. Again, with Heracross and Roserade both having the Spadef stats that they do, I think that especially banded Dragon Claw is just a better attack to click. We're definitely going to rock the Heracronite on Omelette. On Optimus, I like Life Orb a lot here. I'm obviously we're not banding him. We've already put the band elsewhere, and I think that's the right play. I don't like having to choose between clicking Stealth Rocks on Optimus and having him be locked into Stealth Rocks and have to switch out. We can go Life Orb or Black Glasses here, I think is the play. I think we go Black Glasses, actually. Because Black Glasses are going to give almost the same damage boost to Sucker Punch and Night Slash. Only Metal Claw lags behind, and the only time I'm ever clicking Metal Claw is into the Grand Bowl, which honestly, like, I didn't super think this through initially, but Fame might not come against me to avoid boosting Optimus with Intimidate. Since Optimus is on my roster this week, and it was a very likely bring for me, I could very easily see Annabeth saying, you know what, that's not worth for me. I'm going to pass on Grand Bull and Octillery here and bring the Heracross instead, which would threaten this mon a lot, actually. So yeah, I think that Black Glasses is definitely the play here. We're going to keep the leftovers on Pumpkin Spice. I think that's really good. And then on Sashimi, what is your counterplay to Sashimi? So the question becomes, do we run Lum on Sashimi? Or do we run Citrus? Or do we run a different item? Could run Life Orb, which would not be bad, certainly. Also would not expose the fact that we have 2 Life Orbs now, because it would be the only one that we're using, which is like legitimately good. You know what? Yeah, we're gonna do that. Obviously, if we eat a stun spore from Rose and we're paralyzed, and that fucking sucks, and that's just a thing that we have to live with. But our goal for this match is going to be to position either Sashimi or SpongeBob in a position to set up and sweep. My gut actually tells me that Sashimi is our more likely sweeper in this matchup. I just think he has a better type matchup in general. You know what? I am going to make a learn set change, and I think a really important one too. Yeah. We're gonna give Sashimi Facade over Return, which is gonna be lower base power, admittedly, but it is gonna mean that if we did misplay by putting that life orb on instead of a Lumberry, we can at least turn those lemons into lemonade with a high base power move, especially if we get like outsped by Will-O-Wisp Delphox, for instance. I think that'll be really helpful. I think in this matchup, we definitely... Oh God, who do we lead here? Becomes a really important question. I think we lead Sashimi actually in this matchup just to get a turn 1 Intimidate off, because I think that Annabeth has to likely lead Medicham here to threaten out Optimus if Optimus is our lead, right? So, or do we lead Pumpkin Spice in that case and just go for a turn 1 Willow? That might actually be the play, because like if you're Annabeth, if you lead anything other than Medicham or Heracross and I lead Optimus, I'm clicking Stealth Rocks basically for free. There's very little that you can do about it. So yeah, I think it's very likely that she leads with one of her 2 fighting types, and I think that in that instance we lead Pumpkin Spice. Basically 100% of the time. It's not a perfect lead matchup. I am not going to BS on that, because if she does lead with her Heracross and it is a substitute Heracross, I'm not sure how effectively Pumpkin Spice breaks that sub. That's probably a worthwhile calc to know, honestly. Heracross Mega... Let's say Battle Spot Singles Mega Wall Breaker. That seems like a likely set. Versus Defensive Goregeist. Yeah, we don't break sub. So that's a problem. Do we lead Ravioli and just punch? We might lead Ravioli and just punch, especially because I feel like the combination of Ravioli Optimus really puts Annabeth in a hard spot. Because, like, it's so hard to just switch in the Grand Bull, right? In fact, maybe we lead Ravioli, and if Grand Bull came, just hard swap into Optimus to try to bait the Intimidate switch in. That might be the play. Okay, cool. I feel like I have a pretty good handle on that now, and that feels good. So yeah, that is our team against Annabeth. Now against Celeste, we are definitely going to make a few substitutions, because Celeste's team is very different. Although still, again, very similar to what she brought last week, very minimal changes. Celeste's roster consists of Benson, her Mega Charizard X, which is very bulky, very defensively built Charizard X, which has worked out very well for Celeste thus far in the season. Jamak, her Greninja, Starscream, her Skarmory, Shiitake, her Breloom, Song, her Florges, Rex, her Garchomp, and Yumyan, her Snorlax. And then new to the squad is Flame and Air, her Whimsicott, which was her Eggmon this week. So that's a really interesting lineup. I did look, and Whimsicott doesn't get a ton of support that I am particularly concerned with. Frankly, at least not in singles. Does get access to Tailwind, so that's something that we're going to have to be very, very aware of next week in doubles. And gets access to Moonblast and Hurricane, as well as, like, I think actually best Grass Stab by level up might be Mega Drain, which is not ideal. No, it gets Energy Ball. Okay, so if it's an offensive set, it could have Energy Ball, Moonblast, Hurricane, which isn't a bad spread, but it's not a super powerful Pokemon anyway. It's only got base 77 special attack, so we can pretty well live with that. Support-wise, with Prankster, it can have access to Leech Seed. It can have access to Cotton Spore, which reduces speed by 2. It can have access to Stun Spore. Fake Tears, so we could see like a Fake Tears Moonblast, something to be aware of. Gets access to Encore and Memento and Switcheroo as level up, or as egg moves, when this was an Eggmon, so it could potentially have all of those. It gets access to Endeavor. It gets access to Giga Drain. It gets access to Charm, reducing attack by 2 stages. So these are all like potentially really potent attack choices for Celeste that she can abuse defensively with that Whimsicott. But overall, I think that honestly, it's probably a good substitution, considering the fact that Jamak and Brad Hiraichu fill a very similar like team role, and I think that Jamak unquestionably has the better typing at this point with 3 Garchomps running around. As much as I hate to see Brad sit the bench, like Brad has been such a good and integral part of Celeste's season so far, I think it was probably the correct choice strategically. So what do we bring to beat Celeste at this point? I think Ravioli still has to come. That's not even a question. I think it's the exact same set. Choice banded these moves, even though we're much more likely to... Oh god, do we run Choice Band against Celeste with a Skarmory? Yes, I think, because the Skarmory is very unlikely to switch in on Ravioli now that Celeste has been made aware of the Fire Blast tech. I think that she's much more likely to switch into Snorlax or Florges, both of which we have tech to deal with. So I think that Choice Band is still the play here. I definitely think we still bring SpongeBob in the same set on SpongeBob. It's a very good set. We just have to be in a position to set up and sweep with it. I think we definitely bring Optimus. I think Optimus is really huge here. I think Stealth Rocks are super important in this matchup, especially because I don't know what item Flaminator the Whimsicott came with. I have a sinking suspicion that it came with a Focus Sash, because that's just a very common item on Whimsicott. The other option, of course, that would be like really frustrating would be Eject Button, like Eject Button Trickaroo, or Switcheroo, but we'll just have to deal with that if it shows up. Actually, is Eject Button in Gen 6? Question. Yes, it was introduced in Gen 5. So yeah, so it could be an Eject Button, but I have to prepare for worst case scenario, and I think worst case scenario for that Whimsicott is Focus Sash. So getting rocks up and breaking Sash, I think, is really important. As always, I think we bring Omelet here. I think Omelet is super good and is super important in particular for dealing with that Snorlax. We do have to some degree, deal with the faster threats on Celeste's team before Omelet can come out and play, or at least switch Omelet in at an opportune moment. But I think that if we manage to do so, Omelet can do good work here. I don't think we bring Pumpkin Spice against Celeste. We didn't bring him last week because his type matchup was not particularly good, and I don't think that has particularly changed. There is a Mega Charizard X here that I cannot burn, and can use me as Swords Dance setup fodder all day long on Pumpkin Spice, which is not ideal. It's not the worst option, particularly because of, again, Yum Yum the Snorlax, but I also super don't want to get into a position where I'm in a 40 turn stall battle where it's just like resting and can't hit me with normal stab or power up punch, but it's just resting and I'm leech seeding it and seed bombing it and will-o-wisping it, and yeah, that's not a fun end game. I don't think. I would rather lose than play that end game out personally. Yeah. Actually, this is a question. Is Pumpkin Spice worth bringing, though? Like, obviously the Charizard is a problem, but Pumpkin Spice deals with Greninja, For the most part, because Greninja doesn't have Dark Pulse yet. So Pumpkin Spice deals with Greninja. Pumpkin Spice deals with Breloom a lot, like hard walls it, which is really important with Optimus having a switch in for Breloom, and we definitely do with Pumpkin Spice. Pumpkin Spice is set up fodder for Florges, though. That's a problem. It does deal with Rex the Garchomp and burns it, which is good. And I think that it wins against Snorlax, even though it takes forever. The Charizard and the Florges are a problem. What do I expect Celeste to bring this week? I don't actually super expect Jamak the Greninja. It doesn't have like good stab that is not water, and I have a lot of water switch-ins at this point. I got 3 specifically. I think that Jamak is a much more compelling bring next week when it has access to Ice Beam and Dark Pulse. Then it will be a goddamn problem for everything except for Gyarados, and even then a problem for Gyarados if we're being 100. Like, we might have to bring Rotom Mow next week just for Jamak. But I don't think it comes this week against the team that I have. I could be very wrong. It's also very fast. Like, it has benefits, but I don't expect to see it. I also don't super expect to see... God. I think if you're my opponent, you have to bring Charizard. I have a Rotom Frost, I have a Gourgeist, I have a Bisharp, I have a Heracross, all of which are weak to fire. Like, you have to bring your Mega Charizard in that matchup, right? You have to. I think I do have the answers to deal with it. I don't think that that's like a glaring problem, but I definitely think it comes. Maybe she doesn't bring the Whimsicott, which I don't think is particularly great, like, on paper against my team. I've got a Rotom Frost here, I've got a Bisharp, I've got a Togekiss, I've got a Gyarados, I've got a Garchomp, all of which she knows has coverage to deal with a Whimsicott. It really, I think, just depends on, like, what toys she wants to play with it with, which is, like, a valid question. But I think that sitting Greninja and Whimsicott would make a lot of sense against me. I could also see her sitting the Breloom, although I think that the combination of Rotom Frost and Bisharp makes Breloom like a really attractive bring. I could see her sitting her Garchomp. She was not willing to sit in on it against my Garchomp last week, so she must have intuited, or at least did not want to find out who was faster. She did not want to fuck around and find out, in fact. But if I had to guess, I'd say we're going to see Charizard, Skarmory, Breloom, Florges, Garchomp, and Snorlax. It's also possible she does not bring her Skarmory this week. Like, 100%. It has been harder to bring against me every single week. I'm packing coverage for it on damn near every mon. This could be the week where she goes, hey, guess what? Starscream is not the answer anymore. She has a lot of answers, and I've got to prepare for basically all of them. But, like, Charizard, Florges, and to a lesser degree Skarmory are the problems for Pumpkin Spice. And I think I deal with those mon pretty well. I think we actually do bring Pumpkin Spice, which is not something that I was prepared to say coming into this team builder, and I need to adjust my own expectations based on that. I think in our last spot, we definitely bring Jelly Bean here. As much as I love sashimi, and as much as I love cheese, oh no, poor cheese. I really expected to bring cheese to this matchup, actually. But I think that bringing 2 mon that are that weak to Mach Punch is maybe a problem when I'm up against a Breloom. Overall, I think that Rotom Frost is really useful on the team preview sheet because it's something that demands prep, because Ice is such an incredible offensive type against my opponents, and so they have to be ready to deal with it, right? But Jelly Bean here, I think, does a couple of really important things. It Thunder Waves, first of all, which means it can status that Charizard. It can status the Greninja. It can status the Whimsicott. It can status anything that is reasonably fast on this team, bar Garchomp, which is really important for securing our late game Togekiss sweep, which is definitely our win con in this matchup. It also threatens Rapid Spin. It does not have Rapid Spin this week, but Celeste does not know that. And so seeing the Starmie at Team Preview is going to make her much less likely to lean into Stealth Rocks and Hazards, because she's going to be aware that I'm going to be looking to get them off the field, or at least she's going to anticipate that I am. Again, in this case, I'm not, but she's not going to know that until later in the match when I've exposed my moveset. It's worth remembering that we had Jellybean on the field against Yummy and the Snorlax for a long time last week, and Jellybean was slowly like winning, or at least stalling that matchup. And eventually I would have been able to go out into Omelet and really threaten without, like, you know, the crit, right? I mean, crits happen though, especially when you're in situations like that where you're just staying on the field for a long time. Crits are going to happen and they're going to affect the game. But in general, I think Jellybean's a really good bring here. I think that it threatens a lot of things. It walls and threatens Greninja, which I think is really good. And yeah, it's a great mod that I think is only going to continue to get better as we head into the end game. And we are going to give Jellybean our second leftovers. So yeah, this is going to be the team this week against both of our opponents. We're not going to make any additional moveset changes. Again, Jellybean's already right where I want him, and I feel pretty good about it. I think that we have at least as good a chance of securing wins this week as we did last week, and last week I think our chances were actually really good. We just weren't quite able to lock up those games, and we're going to be looking to reverse that this week and pick up 2 big W's. I hope you're looking forward to it. I certainly am. But that's going to be it for today, guys. As always, I have been Jolly by Nature. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You made it to the end of the video. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons so you stay up to date on what I and my co-hosts are doing right here on the Blastburn Radio YouTube page. Also, be sure to check out Blastburn Radio Podcast, which is available wherever fine pods are casted, as well as at our website down below at blastburnradio.com. But yeah, we'll be back next time, and I hope to see you there. Take care.